Hello again, everyone, and thanks for watching. In this video, I'm just going to take a minute and ask a question, a simple question. Just one question. But first, let me set it up for you here. Last Sunday, the 1st of this month, the 1st of April, a group of singers and musicians, performers from South Korea traveled to North Korea and gave a performance, or a couple of free performances, whatever it was, in front of an audience. I think there's 1,500 people in North Korea, and also the Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un and his wife Ri Sol-jo. And the performance went off really well, and afterwards all the singers and musicians from South Korea had a group picture taken with Kim Jong-un and his wife Ri Sol-jo. Before they set up for the pose for the portrait, the group portrait, they all shook hands individually with Kim Jong-un. And what surprised me a little bit about this is that a lot of the South Korean performers, I mean, most of them were very gracious. They looked happy to see Kim Jong-un. You know, they smiled, they laughed, and they even bowed to him. You know, that kind of surprised me, the bowing. You know, it's a whole series of people shaking hands and bowing. Now, maybe that's the Asian thing, you know, the sign of respect. You know, I mean, Western people like me, we don't bow to anybody. But it's an Asian cultural thing, I guess. So that kind of surprised me. Another thing also, though, is that Kim Jong-un is a world-class schmoozer. This guy is, he can schmooze with the best of them. By that, I mean he can really, he's what we call a politician. He's a gripper and a grinner. You know, he grabs your hand, shakes your hand, and smiles. He's that kind of person. He just projects that personality. So maybe a lot of the South Korean performers found that hard to resist, you know, that openness that he has. You know, just that big open-faced smile that he has. And like his father had it, but especially his grandfather, Kim Il-sung. Kim Il-sung was just always smiling. But anyway, the question, now here's my question, is after the South Korean performers, they showed respect to Kim Jong-un and bowed and smiled, and in many cases were laughing with both him and his wife Ri Sol-jo. When the South Korean performers go back to South Korea, when they went back, what happened? Was there hell to pay? The reason why I ask the question is because South Korea has some very strict security laws. They're national security laws. And these security laws are a hangover, an extension of when South Korea was virtually a police state for many years. It was ruled by the military, by the police, by their secret, their intelligence service. And so these security laws are pretty strict. And part of the security laws, it's illegal for any citizen of South Korea to say anything nice about North Korea. They get you in more trouble than you can deal with. And even if you're not a South Korean citizen, if you're an American citizen and you go to South Korea and say something nice about North Korea, you're in big, big trouble. And for example, probably there's been a lot of cases of this, but probably the most recent example and the one that got the most attention was in January of 2015. That was just 3 years ago. When an American citizen, she was a professor, Shin Eun-mi, and here she is getting manhandled by South Korean cops. I believe they're in the process of kicking her out of the country. But she was found guilty of anti-state activities. And that anti-state activities include praising, encouraging, and propagandizing North Korea. And basically, if I remember correctly, what she said was, you know, why can't South Koreans just get along with North Korea? They're not that bad. They're not bad people. So let's just try to get along with them, huh? And it's the same thing as Donald Trump when he was campaigning for president. He said, look, what's wrong with trying to get along with Russia? Why don't we do that? Have we tried? You know, look, what harm can there be? Well, there's a lot of harm for Trump saying that, because he violated any number of unwritten laws in Washington, D.C. that right now, for anybody to say anything good about Russia, especially somebody campaigning for president, and now Donald Trump is in more trouble than he knows what to do with. You know, they got all kinds of people trying to hound him out of office simply because he tried a rapprochement with Russia. Same thing here happened to this professor. So she was kicked out of South Korea, and I think for 5 years she can't come back or something. So that leads to my question. Is these South Korean performers, how much trouble are they in? Or are they in no trouble at all? Maybe they had a special dispensation. Okay, fine, you can go shake his hand, bow to him, and be nice. It could be, you know. I don't know. But what are they going to say? I mean, the performers, I mean, they still probably can't say anything good about North Korea. You know, oh, I had a wonderful time. The people were great. They treated me wonderfully. The place was, the venue was nice. The food was great. Kim Jong-un, swell guy. His wife, just a total sweetheart. See, how much can they say before they get into trouble? I don't know, but the South Korean K-pop artists, they seem to be enjoying themselves immensely. But the bowing, you know, maybe that's, you know, this woman here bowing in the red gown, bowing to Kim Jong-un. I mean, I don't know, you know, you tell me. But even though you know, there may be a little bit of warming of the relations, South Korean media, they still got to get in their shots. They still got to stick it to North Korea. They just can't help themselves. And I mean, if you've read South Korean media like I have for the past 5 years or more, you'd be hard-pressed to find them say anything good about North Korea. It's either neutral or bad. And if they can't find something bad to say about North Korea, they'll pull something out of their ass. You know, they'll just make it up. And they do that a lot. They still do it. And here's an excellent example of this. This was a couple days ago in Chosun Ilbo. And the title is, of the article is, State Media Show Kim Jong-un with K-pop Stars. And there's a couple pull quotes here that are interesting that, like I say, the South Korean media, they've got to stick it to North Korea. Even though they got to make it up, they got to still do it. So here's a quote. The first, I got a couple quotes for you of this article. Here's the first one. And they're talking about the group portrait where Kim Jong-un and his wife, Ri Sol-ju, they're posing with these South Korean K-pop artists. And here's the quote. Besides the unusual juxtaposition, whatever that means, the grouping is also unusual since Kim normally has to sit in the center front row in any official souvenir picture. Well, that's a load of horsebucky. Yeah, sometimes Kim Jong-un he often sits in the front row. But there's many times he doesn't. Many times he's in the middle. You know, you see him, he sits in the middle with a lot with kids. You see him sitting in the middle of the group. He sits in the middle of the group with soldiers or just people. You know, you see him sitting in the middle. He surrounds himself by people rather than sit out front. And he seems to enjoy surrounding himself with people. Sometimes he stands all the way in the back. Here's a picture of him, an early picture of him standing in the back. Everybody else is standing in front of him, and he's holding a baby. You know, I've got a picture somewhere of him, and there's a lot of people. I couldn't find it, but there's quite a crowd of people, 50 or 100 people, and he's standing all the way in the back. You can hardly see him. I couldn't find that. I'll have to look for it. But yeah, this is chosen evil for you. Oh, he's got to always be in front center. No, he doesn't. And they know that's not true. I mean, here I am all the way the hell and gone in Arizona. And even I know this to be a bullshit statement. So they have to know what they're writing is not true. They still write it, see? And then here's another one that's really silly. And they're talking about K-pop, how people listen to K-pop in North Korea. And here's the statement. North Korea propaganda still regularly condemns South Korean pop as a symbol of capitalist decadence, and people can be arrested if they are caught listening to it clandestinely. Well, not really. They don't use the term, at least I haven't seen the term used, maybe once. I can't remember reading the term capitalist decadence in North Korean media. They may have used it, but most often what they use when it comes to media, when it comes to them trying to keep media out, they don't like, they use cultural poisoning. In other words, they don't want their culture to be poisoned by Western influences. And this is not unusual. This is just not North Korea. It's China. I mean, China bans YouTube. You can't get that in there. A lot of Western media China bans. Thailand, they ban a lot of this stuff. Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Burma. A lot of countries in Asia ban this stuff. And now the EU is starting to ban a lot of stuff that they deem to be distasteful. They're getting rid of it. They call it hate speech. But anything to do with anything anti-gay, misogyny, anything like that. And that's what China bans, and as does North Korea. They call it cultural poisoning. And it's mostly like the hip-hop stuff, anything that glorifies drug use or raping women or using firearms, murdering people. A lot of that is in American music. And we get away with it because of the First Amendment. We've got first rights under the First Amendment. You can pretty much say anything you want to. And but yeah, North Korea doesn't want to see that. So they call it cultural poisoning, but it's not. You know, capitalist decadence is something else entirely. As far as South Koreans listening to, or North Koreans listening to K-pop, probably a lot of them do. Because for crying out loud, North Koreans love Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra and all the rest of them. I mean, Kim Jong-un is a huge Eric Clapton fan. So it's not, you know, it's not. It's just certain types of music, American music, the kind of garbage that American soldiers bring into South Korea, and even South Korea is trying to keep that stuff under control. So, so yeah, this is another bullshit statement. You know, capitalist decadence. And besides, in North Korea, it depends on who's doing listening. Probably poor kids can't afford a lot to listen to a lot of this stuff. The people that are really listening are the children of the elites, the privileged kids, and they'll get away with it. You know, who's going to punish them, even in North Korea? So, but yeah, that's my question. How much trouble are the South Korean performers in when they return to South Korea, and they're grilled by agents of the National Intelligence Service, which is South Korea's version of the CIA. And so they'll probably get grilled, you know, all about Kim Jong-un and what he was like and how he handled himself. And yeah, they probably have to be pretty careful what they say. But I don't know, you know. Maybe somebody can answer that question and leave a comment in the space provided below. But anyway, I just thought I'd just mention that, and in passing mostly. And I'll leave it there for the moment, and we'll move on to other things in the next videos. So as always, thanks for watching, and like I say, see you in the next videos.